All right, good evening and welcome everyone. My name's Craig Turton. I'm the proud co-founder of 100 Words Mate to Mate. And tonight you're watching, I think we're up to episode 14 of Mate to Mate and 8, a concept we put together at 100 Words to encourage guys to, as part of their routine every day, call their mate at either 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night and ask them this. Don't ask them, "G'day mate, how you going?" And he says, "Oh, good." And you go, "Oh, yeah, how are you?" "Yep, good." Say, "G'day, mate, how's your day out of 10? And he'll give you a number and he'll ask you how your day is out of 10. Now, when you jump on tonight, jump on and fill out this poll and tell us how you are going out of 10, okay? And we'll have a look at a few of the results later on tonight. So, as I say each and every week, I'm not a doctor or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm, in fact, a house painter by trade. Okay, so all I'm trying to do here, and all we are trying to do at 100 Words, is mirror a conversation between two mates. Okay, that's all we're trying to do. Now, at any stage tonight, if the conversation gets a bit too deep and you are in an uncomfortable situation, we want you to do this. Ring 131144. There's always someone to answer your call. That number is for Lifeline, 131114. Okay, now we've had quite a few people jump on. We've got people, we've got some people that are a 9. How are they going today? We've got some that are 8, a 7, 7s, and some 6s. So those couple of people that are having a 6, I hope by the end of tonight, with myself and my dear guest, we'll pump you up to up near an 8. And that person's having a 9. Congratulations to you. Now, tonight, we're going back to where it all started, as I said, to Mr. Mason Wood. Woodsy's a great mate of mine, plays for the North Melbourne Football Club. He's a young gun there. Now, he came on board with 100 Words just about 6 months ago. Does a hell of a lot of work for us. There's been a couple of articles in the Herald Sun where he's done some work for us. So here he is. He's the great man from sunny Maroochydore in his bloody tracksuit top, all rugged up, mate. How are you, champ?
Not too bad, mate. How are you out of 10?
Oh, mate, out of 10, I've actually struggled today, to be honest. I've probably had a 4. I just couldn't get out of my own way today. I've been moping around a bit until I spoke to you this afternoon, and I was taking my daughter to the dentist, and I thought I had to better, pucker up a bit because I was a bit of a sad sack, and she was the one getting the teeth out. So since then, I've been pretty good, mate. I'm looking forward to catching up with you tonight. But what about you, mate? How's your day been out of 10 today?
Not too bad. It's probably been an 8. We've had, I guess the weather helps. We actually had a fair bit of rain prior to the last couple of days, but it's 22. Yeah, it's 22, sunny. But yeah, not too many climbs up here at the minute.
Now, Woodsy, if you're going to sook and moan, I'll tell you now, I will cut this video off real quick, all right? I'm down here in a mask, all right? You're doing okay, mate.
That's true. Very, very true. It's not too bad up here at all.
Oh, good, mate. Mate, let's further that question even more than how's your day been out of 10. How's the last 3 months been out of 10, mate, for you?
Oh, it's been crazy, to be honest. Like, absolute whirlwind. Obviously, we stopped, we started, we got sent up here, we started again. We've moved. So it's just been crazy and unforeseen, and I guess everyone's got probably their own story about how this has all affected them. But for me, if you had told me 3 months ago I'd be spending the next 50 now days in Maroochydore or wherever we end up being, I probably would have said you're talking absolute rubbish. So it's been a different sort of year, but trying to find the enjoyment out of every day, I think, is still pretty important.
Has that been the tough thing, mate? Just the unknown. I mean, let's use a footy term. The goalposts get changed on you guys every couple of weeks. You don't know, it's a little bit more structured right now, but to go back 2 or 3 weeks, it was all over the place. You just got to be on your
and to be honest, it still is. Like, we were going to Tassie, a week ago. Now we're not. Now we might be, for round 13. But we might not be. And then at the end of the year, we might be down there. I've also heard, you hear more rumours in this hub than just about any other time of the year. I've heard we're going to Darwin. I've heard we're moving to Cairns. I heard we could be a chance to go to Perth. Like, it's crazy, but like it's what reality is at the minute. And there's the people at the AFL have to come up with what best works for the club. And we obviously wanted to get down to Tassie, and that couldn't work. Tassie closed their borders, but they might reopen later in the year. So it's literally just, you know, hold on to the seat and see what happens.
Buckle up and hold on.
Yeah, exactly right. See what happens.
Now, that works for some people, mate, but I'd imagine that doesn't work for others, particularly those are the boys with family and partners and kids. I mean, as a father of 2 kids and slightly out of my prime, I don't know how I'd cope going away from the kids for that long. It must be, with a group of 45 blokes, it must be a huge array of different emotions.
Massive. For me, I'm probably the least scathed, although I'd love to see family and friends and all that. Relatively, I'm with, you know, blokes that I love spending time with, and don't have a family of my own to bring up here, but there are probably, you know, close to half the group, plus staff, plus, you know, physio and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it does put added stress in the family situation, and, you know, people have had to stop working to come up here, and, you know, we've had people had to stay back and leave and all that kind of stuff. So it's far from ideal, and I am very lucky to be in the situation that I am personally, because a lot of the other boys are doing it a lot harder.
One word you mentioned there that I picked up on and I wanted to talk about tonight, there's a lot of publicity around the players and the coaches, but the admin staff and the physios and the doctors and all the medical staff, they are in exactly the same position as you, and quite often in the newspapers and social media, they get overlooked, but they're a huge part of what makes you guys be able to get out on the field, and particularly now, having to play so many games in a condensed time frame, they are very important people to you guys.
100%. I mean, they're more crucial now than ever. If we were to lose them, I don't know how we function. But, yeah, I think initially it was 32 days. They didn't have the option to bring family up, which, you know, was AFL decision. It then got pushed out to an extra 60 days on top of the week that we'd already been there. And now they've been given the chance to, you know, bring family up. And even that, you know, financially is going to be tough. And it doesn't work for everyone. Some families are going to have to stay behind. They've got support. Some don't. So they have to come up. So just been a whirlwind. And then you're trying to get a win on the weekend. And it's hard. But, I mean, every other club's in the same position.
And the communication between you guys, I mean, you're used to going to training, get there pretty early in the morning, leave late afternoon and go home. But now it's a lot more about recovery than it is training, I believe, and you can talk us through that. But now, after the day's finished, you're still with these guys. Do you find you need a break, or is everyone just going, no, you know what, this is so much better like this?
I think initially everyone was excited to spend a lot of time with everyone, but I think the people themselves, there's no issue. Everyone loves everyone gets along really well, but it's all football encompassing, and finding the off switch in this situation is super hard. There's always the opportunity to be doing more touch. There's always the opportunity to be doing more vision. There's always the opportunity to be chatting to a coach. Whatever it is, and the lines are just completely blurred between when we're on and when we're off. So trying to find time to just go, you know what, I'm switching off from footy and I'm doing this. Like today, uni started back up, and I hate uni, but it was actually something that I can go, you know what, the next 2 hours, probably ended up being about an hour 15, but I can go and, you know, switch off to the world and just, you know, feel a little bit more normal and a little bit in my own, you know, in my own space and that kind of thing. So it is increasingly hard to find that off switch, but I'm starting to find a few ways that works for me.
And it's different for every bloke, mate. I'd imagine you've got your footy nuts who just want to constantly touch the leather, and other guys like, no, mate, I'm out for a while, and we're due back tomorrow morning at 7, and I'll see you then.
Yeah, I mean, and there's guys that have got families that just can't.
Yeah.
You go, you know what? I have this amount of time to spend on footy, and that's what I've normally done. And I've come home, and then I'm all family, and completely fair, completely understand. So for those guys that still have to do the family life, they're going. You know what? I'm busy. I'm sorry, I've got stuff to do, and that's fair. And that it's just the environment that we're in, and the opportunity to get better. But it's a fine line between what's enough and what's too much.
I'd imagine that will be good long term when we go back to hopefully next year when everything goes back to normal. I wonder if clubs will back off and give guys more free time and give them that option, because with 44 guys on the list, and maybe next year it'll go down to a lot less, but you just need to find what works for each bloke. And I'd imagine that's one thing that's changed a whole lot since you started when you did, where now it's a lot more flexible. Is that fair?
Oh, 100%. It was one gym program. Oh, that's probably a bit harsh, but relatively it was one size fits all. There's maybe one or two groups, but now everyone's on their own individual gym program. Some blokes don't train every day. Some blokes do. Some blokes, might get more treatment. Whatever it is, it's very, tailored to what your needs are. And I think this period of time is sort of going to help a lot of blokes hone in on what they actually need, because a lot of the stuff is sort of just, I'll do it for the sake of doing it. Do you actually need physio? Do you actually need a massage? You're better off just going and do more beach recovery, pool recovery, and the opportunity to do that, because we've got a beach 150 metres down the road, we've got a pool, we've got ice bars, and you're here the whole time, and you're going to find out, what, I was only doing, 2 ice baths a week for 10 minutes, but I'm now doing 2 a day. And does that make a difference? So there are benefits of being here, because you just have that footy 24/7, and you can sort of figure out what works for you.
Yeah. So therefore, guys are going to learn a hell of a lot about themselves and a lot more about what they actually need.
Yeah, 100%. I guess, that's the benefit of this all-encompassing football world at the minute.
Now, we talked about this afternoon, the whole 4-day break with minimal training and more recovery based on a normal week, let's, for example, play Saturday and then the following Sunday. Which do you prefer, mate?
Well, to be honest, it's uncharted territory for us. It's going to be very interesting. I don't mind. Normally by midweek, you're sort of feeling pretty good, and then you'll have a good main session and you try to hit game intensity. So I'm not too worried about having to back up, especially if it's only for a couple of weeks, but it's going to be interesting. Injuries, just purely fatigue. Who knows how it's going to, play out for those that are going to be playing all 3 games in the next, 15 days, or are both going to be playing, limited time, or are they just going to rotate? Like, the possibilities are endless, and every club will do it slightly different. I know, some teams have already started to rest players, which is completely fair. So it's going to be interesting. It's exciting. Midweek games, I'm sure everyone will be pumped to be able to see more footy, and obviously that the crowds are back at the games. The football games look a bit more exciting. So, yeah.
My wife is officially not looking forward to it. I'll tell you that right now. My kids and I, on the other hand, cannot wait.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm in the bad books for the next 20 days, I reckon. And I reckon I'd be me and half the population, I reckon. Now, mate, as we talk about every week, and you and I have talked about this plenty of times, is how important your mates are. Are they even more important now? And the level of the communication, is that heightened now? Do you feel as though, with the work that you've done with us and the work that you've done, there's been articles written about you and how you talk about gratitude and mindfulness and men's mental health, and how you're a big advocate for it. Does the hub create more intense conversations between blokes?
To be honest, I think somebody said to me the other day that we've still got 7 weeks in here. And I sort of went, 7 weeks? Geez, that's a long time. Like, we've only been in here 3, and it feels like we've been in here for 2-3 months. The intensity of conversation is going to build as, teams are getting stretched, more injuries, possibilities, blokes not playing, all that kind of thing. I guess the one thing that I always come back to is that everyone's in the same boat, and the more conversations that we have, the better we all go. But yeah, it's definitely going to intensify as we keep going, and I guess maybe once we do start to see the end, it might even start to peak because it's just like we're getting that close, and we also want to get out of here. So it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting come 4 weeks down the track.
Can you imagine? Do you guys ever sit around and talk about what it would have been like if this had happened 30 years ago or 20 years ago? Blokes would not have been able to handle it with the lack of communication skills that they have, versus you guys now are just encouraged to talk about your emotions and how you're feeling. Does that ever come up about how the older crew would have coped?
Oh, it hasn't, but we had chats with. What this has done is more football conversations about what's happened in the past. Like, you're sitting down with coaches. I was sitting down with Gavin Brown, four-time Cope Trophy winner for Pies, premiership captain, all that kind of stuff. And just some of the conversations that you have with him and stories that you have with him, and you just go, how times have changed. It's crazy. And even in the 8 years that I've been, playing for the Roos, it's changed massively. Things just might have been said in a meeting, and there might have been some snickies about, oh God, he's struggling or whatever, and it's just not that anymore. It's just, how do we help him? How do we get better? It's just completely changed. So I can imagine back in his time, like, we've got blokes from Shorey to Gav Brown, the older guys that have been a part of footy club. Donald McDonald's thankfully not up here. But yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it's just completely changed. But one thing you did just bring up, the reminiscing about football, footy trips and old games and that kind of thing has been a highlight of this trip so far, for sure.
Yeah, mate. How fortunate do you often sit there and go, hey, look, it's pretty tough what we're having to do, and we never know from pretty much day to day how it's going to roll. But is there a real appreciation for the fact that you guys are still working, and there's a lot of people out there that aren't, the companies haven't been able to get a job keeper and they've lost their business. Is there much talk about, really, you guys are really, really lucky? Is there much talk about that?
I wouldn't say it's the realisation until you talk to people that are back in Victoria. Within ourselves, we're so hooked on what's happening in the hub, and there's the hub stresses on itself. So it's not until you talk to family and friends and you go, thank God we are up here. Obviously, football wouldn't be happening if we were down in Victoria now, so we are extremely lucky for that. But I think we sort of, because you're not exposed to it every day. I'm not walking down the street and seeing people with masks on or anything. Like, people are, at pubs and bars and that kind of thing still up here. So it's a little bit, not that we're allowed to do that, but you still see people out and about and living regular life. And it's not until you talk to people back home, you go, God, we left just before, shit virtually hit the fan. So, yeah.
I can imagine you talking to family who I know, and they be telling you how things are, and walking down the streets of Geelong wearing a mask. Not all that common, my friend.
No. My mum's mum had to be coerced to wear a mask out of the house, and I'm not going to wear one. Yeah. And I'm going, it's just, I can imagine her kicking up a stink, but it's a thing that she actually has to wear one, that you just go, how crazy is the world that we live in?
Yeah, my 77-year-old mother argued with me that she didn't want to wear a mask. I said, "Oh, you're wearing a mask if I have to tackle you to the ground. You're going to wear one."
Exactly. You're not leaving the house otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to win that fight. Trust me.
Exactly.
Mate, obviously the support of each other is huge, and the support from family with yourself, ringing home and talking to everyone must be awesome.
It is. To hear people what they're doing outside of, and it always is. It's always a great reminder of how lucky you are to be doing what you're doing, and to now, be still up here and still playing football, but to call home and say, even though stuff's going on, my family's still healthy and happy and doing the very best that they can, and got all the support of all their friends and family around them back home. So it does give you a boost, and it does bring you back to reality. And, realise that there is a life still outside of this hub, and it's still a big part of my life.
Absolutely, and you must have missed them intently, mate.
Yeah, it's crazy to say. I actually didn't get to see the family prior to going back to back into AFL football. So we had about 4 weeks before we came up here. And I didn't get a chance to see him. So it's going to be virtually 4 months. And I wouldn't have not seen my family for 4 months probably ever. Mm-hmm. So it's, it's different. And I'm going to be, come the end of the season, once we have time to relax and hopefully everything's sort of starting to go back to normal by the time we get back. But, extremely excited to see them, I'm sure, once I get the chance.
That'll go across the board. I know some members of your family. I know they're pretty keen to see you because they haven't seen you for so long. It must be hard, mate, for you personally, in and out, and not being able to go back to the twos and tear it up. That's hard, mate. You just the way you turn, and it's hard.
It's hard is probably the right word. It's without its challenges, not without its challenges. Sorry, it's different. Like, we got told last week that we weren't going to have any games to play because of the short turnarounds, and we're going to need more of the team and that kind of thing. But you just go. I actually spoke to a coach tonight and just said, look, I sort of feel as far away from being able to push my case for selection as I ever have prior to actually making it into the side. Because in the past you always go, I'm one game away from getting back in. I'm one game in the VFL from just turning it on and I'm back in, and that's something that I can control. And when that gets taken away from you, you go, oh, I sort of feel a little bit detached from the team and that kind of thing, and that becomes very hard. I also said that you've got the other blokes that you're coming back to that you have the chance to reconnect with and have some fun with them and drive towards that common goal, getting back in the team. So that part of football is always there and always a good landing pad to come back to. So it's not all doom and gloom, but up here, it's all encompassing. You'd love to be playing ones, and we'd love to be having wins, and but we haven't been doing that. So everyone's got their piece of the puzzle that needs to be put together to be able to have a good year. But I think just a bit of perspective about where I am. There's blokes coming back from long-term injuries that haven't had that would have played this weekend if there was a game to play. So, thinking outside of yourself and getting to those guys and say, how are you doing? Are you all right? Disappointing, but let's push together sort of thing. So it's, it's definitely hard, but, that's footy at the minute.
What about a young bloke? I think we talked about this at the start of the season, where we talked about a young bloke comes in, he's been waiting since he was 12-year-old to get drafted, gets drafted in the AFL and goes, hang on, I didn't sign up for this shit. What's going on? I should have been 8 games deep by now and won a Rising Star. And it just must be, you're finding you have to get around those boys a fair bit and just say, hey, it'll get better.
I think it's not too bad because those guys aren't the ones with families. So they have that opportunity to just, like, I think I mentioned it's like school camp where you sort of have your duties for the day and then you have dinner, and then it's just like we were playing cricket, indoor cricket, and then we played other games. We played poker. We played, all the things that, you do when you just, got nothing to do, but you've got 40 of your best mates to hang around with. Like, it's that time's really, really precious. And I think the young kids are loving. You automatically think to those kids that haven't been drafted and don't have the opportunity to play tack footy or state footy in another state, that you go, God, I wonder how they're feeling. Like, for me, as a 19-year-old, if at the start of my 19th year, if they had said, you're not going to play any footy, I wouldn't have got drafted. And you go, like, how crazy is that? Like, I literally was not on anyone's radar at the start of that year, and then you come through and you had a good year, and it's just all off the back of that year. And I would say that would encompass nearly half the kids that are drafted. So it's just crazy.
That's a real sliding doors moment, isn't it? I mean, depending on when you look at the guys who have come through this year, like Matty Rowell and Isaac Rankin and a few of the boys have just turned it on. Those guys last year if this was happening, they'd be like, well, you don't get your chance to push. And that's another thing that there's always that domino or ripple effect that we keep talking about that with what's happening COVID. And that's one thing that, so wrapped up in watching all these games, you forget about those kids who are busting their asses and don't get to prove themselves this year. So what the hell do you do at draft time at the end of the year?
And how do you cope with that? Like, there's nothing foreseen to be able to cope with that. Kids that are in year 12, the same thing. Like, I know everyone's got their thing that we're working towards, but those kids, the draftees, like, there's kids that are ready. Like Matty Rao would have been ready to go freaking last year to play AFL footy, but then he misses out if it was this year, and he's not playing footy another year. So it's crazy to think how as like you said, it ripples and affects it affects all of Australia in some way, some more than others. But it's just crazy.
How have you, with your mindfulness and gratitude and the way you talk about your mental health, has anything changed since you've been in this situation? Have you changed anything that you would do normally? Are you doing more of something and less of something else? And what are some coping strategies that you personally use to get through what you're going through?
For me, mindfulness is forever evolving. You go through different stages of doing different things. You don't ever want to get stale with mindfulness. Whatever it is, you find the thing that works next. You go back to what's worked in the past, and it's just forever evolving. There's not one template. This is what you do, and this is how you feel. Like it's mindfulness. It's how your brain works. So there's definitely things that I've picked apart. At the minute, I'm trying to achieve something every morning upon waking up. To kickstart my day, because you can sort of it can be a slow start because there's no definite times. Like, you can roll to breakfast and then, it's still, you've got all this time. You don't have to travel anywhere. So you've got all this extra time, and you're sort of just like, I need to start the day by ticking boxes in order for me to have a good day. And it's just simple stuff. But, whether it's going to the beach for a meditation, or whether it's just jumping in an ice bath or the cold pool, bit of shock therapy with the water, whatever it is, just to get you going, just because it can be a little bit slow to start.
That's interesting, that theory about just ticking the box. We interviewed Mark Worthington a couple of weeks ago, and one of the very, very simple things he does every morning when he wakes up, and it sounds ridiculous, but I tried it and it works, is when he gets up in the morning, he just makes his bed. So he's automatically, 90 seconds later, he's achieved something. And he says, if you make your bed, there's no chance you're going to jump back in it because you don't want to mess it up.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Already you're in front.
Yeah, it's if nothing else, you've achieved one thing for the day. I remember seeing that quote somewhere, and it's pretty powerful just to make your bed. I think to start that day off with a something that you've achieved, and how little it is, but mentally. If you're not having wins throughout the day, your day will turn from a 10 to a 3 pretty quick, I think.
And how simple is that, just to be able to do that and get off on the right foot? Guys, I've said that to guys since I interviewed Mark a couple of weeks ago. I've said that to blokes, and they're like, oh, fair dinkum, really? Make my bed? I'm like, try it. Just try it. See how you feel. Yeah,
it's and everyone's different.
Yeah.
It might not be making your bed. For me, it's getting up, and if it's not a cold plunge, it's ice shower for a minute just to shock the body. And you go, the decision to sit there and go, you know what, I'm going to do this, rather than sit there and go, you know what, I'm not going to make that bed. That's not for me. I'm not going to jump in that cold shower. And you go, no, I'm making the decision to step in the right direction today. And that's powerful in itself.
That's a choice, isn't it? That's a choice you make. And even something like a shower, you can go, all right, I'm going to turn on cold, no hot water, just cold, and I'm going to last 20 seconds. And then try and get to a minute.
Yeah, and it sucks every time. But after you've done it, but you go, you know what, that was hard. That was eyes closed. I could feel the coldness. I've got to step into this.
Yeah,
but
take your breath away type stuff.
Yeah, 100%. But it's something achieved, and I feel better for doing it. So that's good. If making your bed gets you, get your socks off, whatever it is, do that. But I think starting the day in the right direction is something that I've been trying to do while I'm here, along with, my mindfulness stuff and, listening to some audio books and just trying to take yourself away from this situation as much as you can in the right ways.
If I've learnt nothing else, mate, over the last, since talking to you 13, 14 weeks ago and every week since, is routine and structure is something that comes up each and every week and how important they are. And for someone like you and all the other guys in the AFL and the staff and everyone, that's been thrown out. So to be able to find that, and that's no different to someone who's lost their job or, can't afford to pay their rent. It's just trying to find something where, as you said, tick the box and have a win so that you can have a few wins. If you take a kick in the guts and something happens, you might be at a 7 and then drop down to a 5 versus be a 4 and drop down to a 2. There's a big difference.
Massive. The getting your headspace to as good as you can in preparation for possibly those bad things. They might not come. Hopefully they don't. But if they do, you're in a great headspace to bounce back.
Yeah. Mate, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Where do you go? So we're in Maroochydore at the moment for hopefully
the next 7 weeks.
Next 7 weeks. Hopefully we don't have to move. And just go from there. Who you boys got this week?
We have Adelaide, so hopefully we can break this losing streak and get back on the winners table. But yeah, it's honestly crazy. I think some people are struggling with how quickly, and people don't don't understand. It is literally changing the night before, on the day. Whereas start of the year we have everything planned out for the whole year. You'll know exactly what you're doing at this time 6 months in advance. And now we're lucky to have 6 hours. So it's just crazy, but you just roll with the punches and, the best teams will roll with the punches and get the most out of each and every day, even without that structure.
Isn't that funny? Because in a football game, as we all know, everything can change like that. The ball bounces funny. It's an odd-shaped ball. It played out in the elements. It's played in a hard ground, soft ground, wet conditions, dry conditions. Like, when you're out there, you are trained and programmed to make decisions on the fly, are you not?
Yeah, 100%.
So that's what you are programmed to do. Ball comes in on the right. When we get it, we go out the fat side, whatever it is. So being trained to do it for 2 hours a week versus being trained to do it each and every day, there's some. It's relevant though, isn't it, to what you're trained to try and do?
Yeah, I think those that adapt. We talk about it being ability to adapt and adapting games to different teams, what they're throwing up. They might throw an extra one in at the stoppage. They might throw an extra one back. They might be, using the 45 more. Your ability to adapt in game is massive. And at the minute, we're talking about our ability to adapt day to day, week to week, month to month, minute to minute, really, and how important that is. So moving forward, we're used to it one way. It's changed. Get used to it. It's just how it is.
I reckon that long term, that could be a real advantage. Like, you're just having to, you go back to the old adage, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's what you guys are copying. And that's what most people in this country are copying. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Yeah.
For the short term, this hopefully will pass sooner rather than later. It might not, but that's the attitude I'm going with. And deal with the here and now. What is relevant to me in this minute, in this hour, in this day? How do I get the most out of today? When, a lot of people probably can't have that. So I'm very lucky that I can have that headspace and, continually push to get back in the team and get the most out of my footy and, put my best foot forward, as I've always tried to do.
I think that's a good lesson, though, for anyone who's is struggling at the moment. And, to me, I had a 4 today and I literally just couldn't get out of my own way today. But tomorrow I'll get up. I'll promise you this. This will be a bad visual for you. I will get up tomorrow morning and I will have a cold shower for 30 seconds. I guarantee you. And I'll try and get it to a minute by the end of the week.
Beautiful. Feel the euphoria. Absolutely.
There's a vision for you and all the listeners.
And think of me prior to stepping in going, why the hell am I doing this?
When I'm yelling out at 5:30 tomorrow morning, Woodsy!
100%.
I'm going to leave you with a very gruesome visual.
Appreciate that. That'll get me through the rest of the week, mate.
Mate, you're a star. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really, really appreciate your time as always. You're really, really good to us at 100 Words, and we couldn't be more grateful and thank you for having you as part of our team.
No worries. Thanks for having me again, guys. Appreciate it.
Mate, take care, Woodsy, and we'll talk soon.
Beautiful. See you soon, mate.
See you, bud. I think I might have ruined Woodsy's night there with me promising to have a shower for 30 seconds in the cold tomorrow. But you know what? Stuff it. Tomorrow morning, that's what I'm going to do. I'll make the bed and just get up and try and make a change and get off to a good start, because I didn't do that this morning. I'm going to do it tomorrow morning. So some really good tips there from Woodsy. Just everyone at the moment, life is like a football game in regards to it's all over the place, okay? It's coming from all angles. Everyone's doing it hard, but it's more important than ever to call your mates at any hour of the day and ask them this. G'day, mate. How's your day been out of 10? Or how's your week been out of 10? And get them to give you some information, and you can give them some information about how you're going. It's really, really important. I really ask you to start doing that just as part of your routine each and every day. Now, as we do every week, we thank those who have been so good to us and are continually so good to us at 100 Words. On behalf of myself, Walt, and the rest of the board, we'd like to thank Shelley Wood from Splice Communications. Shelley is an absolute star. Anything you need in the communications game, Shelley is the person for you. Splice Communications. To Matt Atkin and the whole team at Atlas Brokers, formerly Atlas 61 Finance. They're now called Atlas Brokers. They do a huge amount for us, and we're so grateful to have them on board. And to my dear friend Brett Phillips, who runs the only tennis show in this country called The First Serve. He was able to get Sam Groth, a mutual friend of ours, on last week. That was great to have Sammy, and to Brett, who does a huge amount for us. Thank you so much. Now, next week, we have a dear friend of mine called Adam Douglas. He runs a company called Health Breaks. So it's all about a program that you can have in your workplace. If you haven't got this in your workplace, you will by the end of next week, I promise you. It's all about having health breaks. It's so important now that everyone's home, doing home work from home, just to be able to take those breaks, go for a walk. He's a really interesting guy to talk to, and I'm really looking forward to having him on next week. Adam Douglas is his name, from Health Breaks. Cannot wait for next week. Make sure this week for you is a 10 out of 10. Do whatever you can to help yourself and help others, and do yourself a favour. Get up in the morning and have a 30-second cold shower. I'll talk to you later. See ya.